Okay, so in this video, we are going to look at adjusting line spacing between sentences and paragraphs on a Word document. Now, you may want to do this to satisfy a personal preference or meet the prerequisites of an organization or perhaps your school or university. Using this simple document, we're going to look at how we can do this in practice. Now, the first thing you need to know about spacing in a Word document, there are mainly two types. And those two types are line spacing and paragraph spacing. Let's first look at line spacing. The first paragraph in this document contains 5 lines. Line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, and a very short line 5. If we want to adjust the space between these lines, we simply select the entire paragraph and we should see a pop-up menu option. We move to line and paragraph spacing, hit on the drop-down arrow, and simply select how much space you would like between your lines. Notice that line spacing is measured using a simple numerical value, or a double for the programmers out there. We see that 1.15 has a green tick next to it. This means that this is the current line spacing setting for this particular paragraph. If we would like to adjust it, we can simply hover over different numbers and the document would automatically update to give us a visual representation of what that particular spacing would look like. Notice as I move from 1.5 to 2 to 2.5, the spaces get wider. Likewise, if I move up, the space between the lines reduces. Now, what if I also wanted to adjust the space between paragraphs? So as we can see, the first paragraph ends here, and this is where the second paragraph begins. What we can do is select the paragraph where we would like to remove the line spacing. Again, go to line and paragraph spacing, hit the drop-down arrow, and select either remove spacing before or remove spacing after paragraph. It's your choice. Let's start with removing spacing after the paragraph. As we can see, even without clicking on the option, the document updates in the background to give us a visual representation of what this option would look like. Let's hover now this time to remove space before. And as we can see, the space below the paragraph has reappeared. Let's try that again. Remove space after paragraph. Remove space before paragraph. We could select paragraph 1 again. Wait for the pop-up menu. Again, we move to line and paragraph spacing. Hit on the drop-down arrow. And we select remove space after paragraph. And notice that the space between paragraph 1 and 2 has now been removed. However, the space between paragraph 2 and paragraph 3 remains the same. Now, while this option is useful for adjusting individual paragraphs, there is perhaps a more efficient way to do this document-wide. Now, adjusting the line spacing between a couple paragraphs and lines is indeed a useful skill. However, you may want to apply these changes across an entire document or a long paper. Let's look at how we can do this. Click anywhere in the document. You don't need to do a select all or Control A. We move to the design menu on the ribbon. We look for paragraph spacing. Click on the down arrow. Here we find some preset options for adjusting both the line and paragraph spacing across the entire document. You can simply hover over each option and see what it looks like, and select the option that suits your need. Let's see how this works. Let's first look at compact. See how the document removes the line spacing and the spaces between paragraphs. Now you may remember earlier we said that line spacing is measured using a simple numerical value like 1, 2. However, paragraph spacing uses a point system, a numerical value followed by PT as in point. So what we're looking at here for the compact menu preset is that after each paragraph, add 4 points and use a line spacing of 1. If we look at the tight preset, this time we have 6 points after each paragraph and a line spacing of 1.5. If we look at double, now we have 8 points after each paragraph, so that's the space between each paragraph, and a line spacing of 2. So more space between each line. Notice that these changes, if we were to click on double, are applied across the entire document rather than an individual or a few paragraphs. Now let's undo that change. And what I would like to speak about finally before concluding this video is that when we adjust the spacing between lines and paragraphs across an entire document, sometimes this may result in undesirable or unforeseen changes to our document. One of them is that sentences can sometimes be broken across page breaks. So a major caveat with adjusting the line spacing or paragraph spacing on your document is that sometimes headings become separated from the first line of a paragraph. For example, you may have the heading of a table on one page and the actual table on a separate page. Of course, this is undesirable as it confuses the reader, or the reader needs to move between pages to understand what the table is referencing. Another example of this is when the heading of a particular paragraph becomes separated from the first line of the paragraph. Let's look at an example of this. Let's say I was to start adding some text. For the sake of time, I'm just going to add some line spaces and as we can see, the heading keeps getting pushed further and further down the page until eventually the heading is at the bottom of page 1. However, the first line of the paragraph related to that heading is on page 2. This is clearly undesirable. The way we avoid this is by selecting the heading along with the first line of the paragraph on the second page. We go to Home, the Paragraph section, click on the downward arrow. We go to Line and Page Breaks, and we click the box that says Keep with Next. Once we click that box, we click OK. And now we see the heading and the paragraph have been joined together. If we were to continue adding text at the top of the heading, as we see, we keep moving down, page 2. Let's keep adding some more text, or some text in theory. We're almost at the bottom of the page. Now this time, we won't be able to separate the heading from the first line of its related paragraph. What's going to happen is both the heading and the first line of the paragraph will move together. Let's see this in action. There we go. Now the heading stays with the first line of the paragraph. I hope you found these skills useful. That's all for this video, and we'll see you again in the next one. Bye for now.